Well, kia ora, beer fans, and welcome to the Third Pint Theory. You're joined tonight by a couple of special guests who we'll introduce in a minute. I'm Michael Donaldson, your co-host, and with me, as always, is
Martin Bridges. They call me the beer bigwig, and it's great to have a couple of special guests with us tonight.
yeah. We haven't done a pod like this, a three-way pod, since we had Ryan on ahead of Beervana. And that one was interesting because we had a multitude of technical difficulties. So hopefully this one will go a lot more smoothly. But
Yeah.
anyway, if you're on video, you already see we have Dave and Denise with us. If you're listening, I'll get them to introduce themselves. Dave Wood and Denise Garland. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Go first.
G'day. I'm Dave Wood, Dave the beer guy. Some
Dave the
call
beer
me.
guy. That's right.
I remember that.
I call me that, to be honest. I've been working in Wellington beer industry for too long. I think I worked out next year, people who were born the year I started bartending at Hashigo Sake will be able to drink. So that's,
Okay.
getting on 18 years I've been working in Wellington craft beer in various roles, organising various events, running various organisations, including our current one, which is Winter Ales Fest.
Yes.
And
Brilliant.
I'm Denise.
Thank you.
I'm Denise. I am Denise Garland. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say my last name as well. I have been a lover of beer for a very long time. I started working in bars and restaurants when I was studying at university in Wellington, and have gone on to be a beer writer, a judge, home brewer, and part of the Pink Boot Society as well here in New Zealand. I'm secretary at the moment, and helping do some beer festivaling as well, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were saying just before we got on air that I remember the first time I met you, Denise, was at, it may have been the last Beervana that was in the town hall, but it was certainly a Beervana in the town hall, and I was volunteering and I was working on a bar, and you were the duty manager on said bar, which, considering how long ago that is, we were trying to work out whether you were actually of legal drinking age at the time.
What do I reckon? Maybe I would have been 21. There or thereabouts, probably.
That would have been 2010 Beervana?
Yeah,
2011?
probably.
2010, 2011.
So I probably would have even been older. I can't do the
Yeah.
reverse maths. But still, a spring chicken, I like to think, regardless.
Little craft beer
Quite
baby.
a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good fun. There was good fun. Was that bar? I remember we had a good time on that bar.
And we had Wanaka Beer Works. I remember the brewski being like super popular. I think we were even serving some Matsons as well, which I think my dad was brewing for at the time. Which I think was a coincidence.
That's the
We
thing.
were having that discussion, about your dad. I think that's quite an interesting point, just his history, and I guess how that ties into your history with beer. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a beer household, and I know a lot of beer lovers and Kiwis do, but my beer household was a little different in that my dad was a brewer for Lion Breweries, so pretty much most of my life. He did some time as the head brewer at Hawke's Bay Brewery in Hastings. I think that's actually where he met several other, I guess, brewers that have gone on to some esteem as well. And when that shut down, he got transferred to Christchurch and was the head brewer at Canterbury Breweries. So he went from brewing Hawke's Bay draft, a Canterbury draft, and some Spates and Tasman bitter and Lion Brown and things down there. So I'd always had a love of beer, I guess. Even growing up, I knew that that's what I should be drinking. I should be drinking Lion products. And then when I moved to Wellington, I realized that there was none of my beloved Canterbury draft. And so one of my dad's workmates was just like, "Oh, you should drink Lion Brown. It's pretty much the same thing." And so I went and found myself some Lion Brown. I was a happy girl for a while. And then I guess had actually my craft beer epiphany at the same time as David. We'd just met through university and friends, and he was working at the supermarket in Karori when he brought home a 4-pack of Hoegaarden. And I remember us cracking a couple of bottles and drinking them probably straight out of the bottle, to be fair, knowing us at the time.
It was a pretty bottle.
It was gorgeous. And we're like, gosh, this amazing Belgian beer. And we just couldn't, we just talked for like, I don't know how long, just about how much flavor was packed into this one beer. It like literally blew our minds. We could not believe that so much flavor could be in one brown bottle. And from there, that was it. We were hooked on the craft beer train.
Yeah. At the time, my favorite beer was Corona. So that's sort of where I was at for flavor. Still an amazing beer for what it is, but it's not terribly interesting. And then,
we could all do a confession as to what, like the mainstream beer you jumped off from would be. I'll put my hand up, and it was Spates, with a brief diversion into Peroni, but Spates. What about you, Martin?
Well, I guess sort of UK beer.
You've got a head start from heritage.
Yeah, no, but still, certainly when it was McEwen's export was which is not particularly, I have to say, it claims to be like a Scottish export, not really. It's a kind of a multi brown, probably lager ferment. So that was I drank a fair bit of that when I was a callow youth, and then at university I drank a lot of Newcastle Brown. So
no crime.
That has a cult following in New Zealand, or at least did when we were baby beer geeks.
Yeah. Now, I got to say, we actually had a big jug of Spates on the weekend after a long walk, and it was brilliant. For what it is, beautiful, clean, thirst-quenching beer that just tastes like beer and you don't have to think about it. Beautiful. Nothing wrong with it.
I still maintain I'm waiting for I think New Zealand Draft is an underrated style.
They're coming. Craft Draft is coming.
I really hope that I would drink a lot of Craft Draft.
Next time you're at Mean Doses, we've got MD Draft in 750ml crate bottles behind the bar. $14 a pop, 750 mils of basic beer. It's great stuff.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I wonder whether, certainly for me, whether my kind of liking for New Zealand Draft comes from I drank a lot of mild, and I think that the gap between English mild and New Zealand Draft is not all that great. There is a lineage. There is a similarity. In fact, and this is where I when in my home brewing days, I won a silver in the national homebrew competition with an English mild, which I'd entered in New Zealand Draft.
Very good. I just want to skip back a little bit, Dave, after the Hoegaarden episode. And I don't imagine it's just happened straight away, but how did you go from working in the supermarket in Karori to being in Hashigozaki? did you have other bartending jobs, or did you kind of go straight to the absolute baseline of craft beer, the ground zero of craft beer in New Zealand? In some ways, it's where so many cool things happened, right? You know.
Yeah, it was. I guess the timing was really good. I had my duty manager's license through working at New World, and it was 2009. This new upstart craft beer bar was opening up in town called Hashigozake. I sent them an email saying I'm a massive beer nerd, and I have a duty manager's license. Can I work there? I've never worked at a bar before, but I have a DM license. So yeah, they Dominic Kelly and Sean Golding hired me. Sean Golding, who now runs Goldings, of course. But yeah, so that's how it all transitioned from that. I dropped out of university to work in beer, but I was doing a chemistry degree and not enjoying it. So, but useful
Okay.
knowledge in beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would have been there then for, I guess, a number of the momentous events, and I'm thinking particularly, the Garage Project
Mm.
24/24 and the official launch. And I think Parrot Dog were getting a leg up there, amongst others. So you would have seen a lot of those beers going over that bar.
Yeah, I think I tapped the very first keg ever of Garage Project because I remember this was during the 24/24 project where they brewed 24 different styles of beer in 24 weeks and released a new beer every week at Hashigozake on a Tuesday. New release Tuesday, those were the days. But yeah, they were in corny kegs, homebrew kegs at the time, because they were just brewing on
Okay.
a 50-litre kit. And yeah, we'd get a couple of corny kegs every Tuesday. And I remember the first three showing up and adapting from the Sankey to the corny, and it was a pain in the ass, and got to put them on in a certain order, and it was pouring a bit foamy, and yeah, had
Okay.
Joss and Pete behind the bar to pour the first pints. There were
Those were
news
certainly.
cameras there.
Were there?
Yeah, no, I think One News did a story on it.
That's impressive
Yeah,
for like a brewery that didn't exist.
Joss has
And
got
like
connections.
craft beer wasn't. Certainly, we were on the up at that point, because I arrived in New Zealand in 2007, and that was kind of like Epic Pale Ale and similar were just coming through, and there was a pretty rapid growth over that next 2 or 3 years, but still it was nowhere near the mainstream. And it's impressive to get that they managed to get One News down there.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you're right, Dave, that Joss has connections, and it certainly helps when you're looking for media exposure. I mean, I remember, and we're getting way off target here, but when I was at the Sunday Star Times and was asked to do like a junket travel story on craft beer in Wellington, and it was all based around this new brewery that's starting up, and they weren't even brewing in RO Street. They were still putting the kit in, like there was nothing happening there. So yeah, they were very good at drumming up
Yeah.
the requisite publicity. So yeah, good for them. Hey, Denise, I'm curious because you were at university. Were you studying journalism from the get go, or how did you end up getting into journalism and then getting into the whole beer writing side of it?
Yeah, I guess when I was a wee bit younger, going through high school, I was a bit of a geek. Surprise. Um, and I was very good at maths, and so I had decided that I was going to become an accountant. And then year 11, year 12, fifth and sixth form kind of hit, and I found it incredibly boring. And so I had to kind of throw that idea out the window and thought, gosh, what do I want to do? All that pressure when you're coming up to 18 and need to try and figure out what you want to do with your life. And I think I was doing a school speech competition, impromptu speech competition, and when you're waiting for your turn, you're all just kind of in a room together and trying to drum up conversation as you're taken out one by one, given the topic and told to do a speech. And one of the people that I was in there with, a lot of them were in their final year of high school already. I think I was the year below them. And one of the guys was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go become a journalist." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool, actually." And so that's how I decided that I would go and try that myself, because it was the first idea that I'd thought of that didn't sound boring. So went to Victoria University in Wellington, moved up here from Christchurch to study media studies and film. With the view to become a journalist. I had applied to the broadcasting school in Christchurch, but I didn't get accepted. So the idea was to do 3-year degree in Wellington and then go back to Christchurch and do the 2.5-year degree at broadcasting school. But essentially fell in love with Wellington, found a different pathway, went to Mass University Journalism School instead, which was just the 1-year postgraduate degree. And when I was studying journalism, I think that's when we somehow discovered the Society of Beer Advocates, SOBA, and all the events they were doing in Wellington at the time. And Nick Page, who was running The Pursuit of Hoppiness at the time, which was just a quarterly magazine, found out I was studying journalism and was like, "Hey, you should write for our Pursuit of Hoppiness magazine." And at the time I was blogging about beer because everyone had a blog and mine was about beer. What was it?
What was it called?
Girls Drink Beer Too.
Might still be up.
I hope not. And so that's how it all started. And I realized that it was possible to write about beer. And I actually remember near the end of 2009, nearing the end of my graduate diploma in journalism, going to a beer festival in the pouring rain at Waitangi Park and crowding around the Bennett's Brewery Bar under the covers, and literally started talking to these two blokes who were also standing there as we waited for a break in the rain, and it ended up being Jed Sohn and Hayden, who used to write for like Fishhead magazine and stuff, and they were getting paid to go to this beer festival and then write about it and take photos. And I was like, "You're kidding me! Like, you can actually get paid to do that?" So that was pretty cool, pretty eye-opening, and a very cool introduction to Jed and Hayden. Yeah.
And I've confirmed that the blog is still up.
No.
Last post was October 30, 2009, about Halloween beers.
No.
I won't give the URL for the listeners, but you can just Google it.
No. That's so embarrassing. I can't believe it still exists.
Nothing is ever
Wayback
lost on
Machine,
the internet. It's
Oh, okay.
Oh, look, honestly, Denise, I occasionally entertain myself by going back and reading Alice Gillettley's Beer for a Year blog, because it's
great.
just
That was
funny.
awesome.
And,
Yeah.
That was such a great
now I'm
time.
gonna-
She did such awesome stuff with that.
It was so funny. She had a great sense of humour.
Yes. But we've been talking a lot, like festivals have popped up on occasion, and we're ostensibly here to talk about Winter Ales Festival. And that's a former sober event that you guys now own. And you've run it for 1 year previously, right?
Yeah, we ran it
so
last
tell
year.
us how you came to get your hands on it, and kind of what's involved in putting on, I guess, a boutique beer festival. Is that a fair description of it? I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's very small at the moment. So when we heard the news that the Society of Beer Advocates was winding up, we quite a few of us beer geeks, old school beer geeks from the sober days, started chatting about what might be happening to the assets. They had some jockey boxes. They also obviously had the festivals, Mountain Ales Festival, City of Ales, and Winter Ales Fest were the big ones that sort of made a splash and were regularly frequented. So I decided to reach out to the members, the outgoing sober committee members, and ask what their plans were with the assets. And they didn't have anything, I guess, tangible, but they still had obviously the Facebook accounts and everything related to the various festivals they ran. So I asked if they would gift me Winter Ales Festival, and they were more than happy to see it go on, especially since I had managed to rope this guy into sort of helping if I was able to get my hands on it, since he's run that exact beer festival for many years before we went on our OE. So that's how we managed to get that one. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's interesting, I think, actually, that we said at the start earlier that the last time we did one of these three-way conversations was with Ryan MacArthur from Beervana. So Beervana's on somewhat of a different scale.
The complete opposite end of the spectrum, I think is fair to say.
I think that's fair to say. But I think probably in some of those conversations that we talked about how boutique festivals have a place and actually probably are not easier, but are more suited to the times we're in. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, I think so. We sat on the festival for a year. I think we decided not to do anything with it in 2024, and then decided to hit go, but decided to start small. It'd been quite a few years since Winter Ale Fest had actually run. I think it was 2022 maybe was the...
It was
2021, 2022, around there. And so we decided that it was such an enormously popular festival, had hundreds of people going to it, but it had been a few years, so we decided we would start small, and we found this cool venue on Cambridge Terrace above the axe throwing place, and it's called Whiskey and Wood. And they were incredibly attractive in that they have all of the furniture, they're able to do the lighting, they're able to put the music and the temperature to whatever you want. They already had somebody with a...
there's a bar there already.
Bar there, so it's already licensed. So it was...
we didn't have to pay for a special license.
Yeah, so while we were trying to work out
cost.
whether people still wanted Winter Ales, because... back when Winter Ales was still quite new and fresh, it was pretty hard trying to sell tickets to a beer festival that was all about the dark and warming beers. And it was, we were blown away with how popular it was. We only have, for fire code reasons, there's only 100 tickets for sale for each session. We did one on a Friday evening, one on the Saturday day, and both sold out within
just over a week.
And we didn't even have to do any proper marketing.
Spent $0 on marketing.
Just like a Facebook post, and boom, gone.
Because we got given all the social media accounts. It sort of we were able to get in touch with all the previous fans of it. And,
so it's just laying dormant in all of their feeds, and a couple of posts, and away we go. So,
So you're going for the same scale this year, same venue? Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And tickets go on sale, assuming people are listening before they go on sale. When
Yeah,
is
they
it?
go on sale soon. We should be able to get them up late March,
Early
early
April.
April
Yeah.
is the goal.
Okay.
Currently, we sold out just over a week the first time, and now we've done it a year. Lots of people had a great time. So I think this year they're going to sell out maybe even quicker. So if you don't want to miss out on tickets, on our Facebook page, you can sign up for a notification email as soon as they're available. And hopefully you can snag a ticket or two. Yeah.
I understand someone on this podcast has already booked their plane tickets without even having a ticket.
Somebody may have booked
Ah.
flights and accommodation for a certain weekend in Wellington, and so we'll be kind of poised over a keyboard.
We'll make sure you get one, Martin.
Love it. Love the enthusiasm. It's great.
Hey, given the success of the first one, and I know you never want to kind of necessarily immediately jump to the next level, but is there part of you that goes, what could we do with this? Like, or, you know, because on one side of it, there is money to be made if you run a successful festival. The flip side is there's a risk if you don't sell all your tickets and you get yourself in a hole. Financially for you, how does it work? Like, have you got a system set up whereby you're safe with X number of ticket sales and you're maybe happy with that? Or do you have dreams of doing something bigger and better?
So I think right now the limiting factor is venues in Wellington. Because, Whiskey and Wood is amazing, and it's meant we can run the festival at a manageable size and pay ourselves for the very first time for a beer festival, and pay all our like volunteer coordinator and our designers and everything all get paid fairly, and there was still enough money left over to run it again this year and kick it off again this year, and that's thanks to the venue having the furniture, having a liquor license, all these efficiencies that we got from it, because the margins are so thin. If you have to pay, so I think it's about $1,000 for a special license these days, and then furniture rental can go crazy. It can be thousands, and then you have to make a choice as to whether do we up ticket prices by $30 so we can pay ourselves, or just hope we sell every single ticket and maybe we can pay ourselves, but if we don't, then we'll still at least break even and have enough money to run it next year, which has happened many times. And when Sober was running it, that was almost the goal, was to break even and make it really affordable, because it was Society of Beer Advocates. We were there to advocate for the beer. Whereas now it's we're a bit more commercial, no longer a not-for-profit. So it'd be nice to get paid for the work we put in. And last year we were able to, thanks to Whiskey and Wood.
And it is that it is difficult to, we were running 100 people in a venue at a time, essentially, over 2 sessions. That's 200 or so people get to enjoy the festival. There's not really any venue that's sort of the next size venue up is quite
big,
a bit bigger, sort of probably around that 400 mark, and in the
or even 1,000.
And
then the costs skyrocket for the venue.
And the times we're in, people don't necessarily have the money to spend on a beer festival. So it's, I guess, a little bit of a wait and see. We would, love to be able to have more people enjoy the festival and see it grow a little bit, but there are some limiting factors there. And us both having busy full-time jobs also makes it a little bit harder. If we had a little bit more time to spend on trying to get sponsors and things, it might make it more manageable. But yeah, it is just, I guess, risky economic times at the moment as well. And I think
Yeah.
people really enjoyed just how small and cozy the festival was last year. And it was kind of a little bit of it was kind of exclusive as well, which was kind of cool that it was like we were some of the very few people who were getting to enjoy it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, and I think that's, you know, and not to be lost. I think I was obviously but some people may know that I originally started City of Ales as that exactly that kind of size of festival, running it for Sober a lot of years ago. But people always said that was the feedback we always got, was they loved that it was small, and they loved that it was cozy. And last year, the reason I didn't make it down for Winter Ales last year was that it fell, I think, the weekend before the Craftwork Festival in Oamaru, and I couldn't swing festivals on 2 consecutive weekends. But the Bruxelles Oamaru Festival was exactly that. Was like 100 and less than 200 people, I think, and the awesome part about it was that, you know, it felt like family. You know.
Yeah. Hey, it's just between all of you, then you might have a viewpoint on this question. I got contacted the other day by a guy who's going to put on a small festival in Auckland. Can't say too much about it now because I don't know if it's going to go ahead. But his question was, why haven't beer festivals succeeded in Auckland? And I kind of fished around for some random explanations because I mean I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I would have said venue size was possibly one of them. That because of Auckland's, maybe you just have to go really big, and with going really big means it's not necessarily going to work. Martin, I don't know if you remember the one that the OUSA, the Otago University Students Association, put on at Spark Arena, which was, everyone agreed was amazing, but they definitely sold 1,500 tickets fewer than they needed, and they needed to sell like 4,000 or 5,000 for it to be successful. And so I'm wondering if it's, you know, it's a scale thing. Like, you know, you can only make it work if you've got the right venue, as you've said, Dave, and maybe you need that bespoke audience as well, perhaps.
I think that's the key thing to me, is exactly the same problem that you were saying, Dave, in terms of the availability of venues at different size points. You know, and I think because I get people coming up to me all the time saying, "Oh, we should bring back City of Ales. You know, it was such a good festival and whatever." It's like, well, yep. If I could find a venue that worked, that would
move it to Wellington.
but I'm kind of in Auckland, so
we're good for festivals in Wellington.
You've got
Auckland's the one that needs help.
They've got good ones. They've got good ones. We need them up here. But I think it is that. I think that there is this. You know, there are possibly venues available at the small end. You know, we used to use the Maritime Room down by Quarter. There are a few other similar size venues, and then you've got Spark Arena. You know, and there's not a lot.
And because a lot of the other ones have been put on at the Cloud.
I remember the Cloud one.
They've just gone big. Anyway, the other thing, and we're sort of talking about it to an extent, is kind of what works in a city and why. And one of the things that Wellington's been in the news for lately is like this supposedly doomed hospitality sector. Lots of places closing, restaurants, that have been around for years. But yet, at the same time, there's investment going on in that you've had Three Sisters move in there from New Plymouth. Eddie Line, I saw Dave, you guys were there. Teddy Tacos opening, soft opening. I've heard a rumor, I don't know if it's true, that Martinborough Brewery might be opening
Yep.
somewhere in Wellington. Garage Project have doubled down in terms of taking over that Fortune Favours space. And so from an outsider, there's kind of mixed messages. So I'm really interested in two people who've been embedded in Wellington beer for such a long time. What's your take on what's happening in the capital?
Yeah, I was wondering whether Eddie Line and Three Sisters have been reading the news or not, because they sort of came out of nowhere. They popped up really quickly, and I was just like, "What? They're coming to Wellington? Are you sure?" Because if you don't, I haven't said yet, but I do. I run the Mean Doses tap room since it opened getting on 3 years ago. So we've been open. We opened right in the middle of all this financial hardship, and then the sort of public sector apocalypse that happened. And yeah, it's been really tough to just basically just scraping by, surviving. So far, February, March looking pretty good though. So maybe we're coming out of it now. But yeah, I mean, over the last couple of years, all these places closing, they tend to be the larger venues that have higher overheads. They need to hit a much higher number to break even. And then as people lost their jobs, as the piece of pie, the entire pie shrunk, so everyone's piece got a bit smaller. It just was unsustainable for a lot of the larger ones. Thinking of mainly ones that have breweries attached, like Whistling Sisters and Fortune Favours. I guess couldn't quite stick it out. I think maybe if it was like a year or two later, they could have scraped through. But yeah, being small helps. A lot of the smaller ones have gotten by just fine. Well-established venues also getting by quite well. But yeah, I mean, at Mean Doses, we're very small, just 2 or 3. What are we? 4 full-time staff members. So small is much easier to get through.
And I think there has been a shift since COVID as well. Like everyone and everywhere, people used to work from the office 5 days a week, and now it's usually 2 or 3 days a week, at least in Wellington, where public service sector is probably a higher proportion of our central city workforce. And as a result, it does tend to be that people are drinking closer to home. So you have places sort of in suburbia or places where people will go at weekends doing really quite well. BrewDog, I mean, they're a big name, but they're also right by Lyle Bay, really popular with surfers and dog walkers and people on their way to the airport or on the way home. And then, like, we live in Miramar and we've got Double Vision just down the road, and usually on a Sunday afternoon you're struggling to find a table, which is really cool. And it is, I think everyone's kind of moved slightly closer to home for some of that socializing as well, which means that it is being felt a lot more in those sort of central city areas. And we have seen a little bit of a retreat of hospitality venues out of there. But I think it's really encouraging that places like Three Sisters and Eddie Line have decided to open up in the central city and make a go of it. Also, it's really exciting for Wellingtonians to see cool new breweries and new names that we haven't really seen a lot of in Wellington. We're very blessed with tap rooms and breweries, and so while Edeline and Three Sisters you occasionally see on the supermarket shelves, you definitely don't see them in very large volumes here in Wellington. So it is something exciting and new. And yeah, Martinborough looking to
Yeah, they're
open
taking
up centrally as well.
taking over the Coco's, used to be
okay.
called, on opposite the Green Man
Yeah, diagonal.
on, I don't know what
Yep.
street.
I know.
Victoria.
But yeah, that's the rumor.
Okay.
Okay.
/ I think it's confirmed. I saw a Trade Me ad for a job. So yeah,
That's an interesting expansion for them, because they were very, very hyper local to Martinborough. And,
I'm not sure it's going to be Martinborough Brewery branded.
all right.
I think it's going to be, Martinborough Brewery beer there, but from what I heard, it might not be the Martinborough Tap Room in Wellington. It'll be some restaurant forward rather
Yeah.
than beer forward.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because I guess with Eddie Line, it's not Eddie Line, it's Teddy's Tacos. is
Teddy's Tacos, yes.
So it's definitely more of a
It's set up like a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
And were they good, Dave? I saw your Instagram post. They look good.
They're really good tacos. Really nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
New Mexico style tacos, sort of like hard shell, finished on the griddle, red sauce or green sauce, and yeah, delicious.
Okay.
And 24 beers on tap of Eddie Line. I didn't know they made that many, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of taps for a taco restaurant.
Yeah.
But yeah, very impressive, and the beer was tasting great when we were there.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
yeah,
Because recently I spoke to Ewan Thorpe from 16 Ton in Auckland, and kind of amongst that we talked about, like, what's the state of the market, and the quote, which I thought was very good from him, was you fall off the cliff and then you've got to walk back up the hill. But his thought was, we're on the hill. We're like the climb out of the abyss is on. Is that the sense that you get in Wellington? Is there just generally things starting to turn?
slowly.
Yeah, I think we're being very cautious here. Like, I think that there are good signs, but it's still going to take work. I think that's the thing. It's like nothing has really come easy for the hospitality sector in Wellington since COVID. And I think even though there have been some good signs, and, promising movements, it takes one war in the Middle East to maybe, change that. But
Yes.
it is, I think there is cautious optimism, but it is, everyone's having to work for it as well and work hard. There was a time where, the golden days of
Yeah.
Shigo and Malthouse and Goldings, where, every bar seemed to be doing pretty well, which was awesome. And I think that everyone's having to, work harder to get people in the doors and coming back.
That's probably a good link into kind of what gets them in. What makes the good tap room? What is the secret? Because I remember those days in Hashigo, back in the kind of the early 2010s, whatever we call those, whatever we call that decade.
The tweens.
The tweens, the 20 teens, the tweens.
And it was that was an outstanding place. I have my theories as to what made it great, but I'd love to be. I'd love to hear kind of what you two think about what is the secret sauce, what makes a a bar, a tap room work?
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, back in the Hashigo days, it was just enough to have craft beer on tap. That was a big point of difference. That from all over the country, all over the world, that you'd never had before, and some staff that actually knew about it in a nice setting. That was kind of all you needed. Now it's a very different scene because we've got world class breweries in every city almost making amazing beers. So having a really nice beers on tap is less interesting for people, less exciting. For me, I think a good tap room, it comes down to good beer, first off, consistently good beer. Good people. Your staff are really important. We went into a bar the other day and the staff didn't greet us, didn't look at us. We sort of had to, they weren't doing anything. They just ignored us. And it's not, the staff make a big difference to your first impression. So you've got to have good people. And it's got to be a nice environment, obviously. But I think the thing that really sets it apart is becoming part of a community. A pub has to be part of your local community. You've got to support the people around you, and they'll support you. So if you're a big chain pub, that's not, you're just there to sell cheap beer and the staff don't care about it. It's not gonna, you might last a few years, but you're not going to stick around. I think all the successful bars that have lasted are ones that have sort of been accepted by the local community or like the beer community as well. Like LBQ,
Yep.
classic pub, Goldings, been around for, over a decade and still thriving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, becoming part of a community
think
is core.
I think, and there's something about ambiance that is really hard to put your finger on, but you know when it's good and when it's not. And I will say, Mean Doses, I think that's a really cool space that you've got up there. And just with different little nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
And, Hashigozaki had that a little bit as well,
Yeah.
with the lighting being right. And it can feel intimate if you want it to, or big and vibrant if it has to.
Lighting is so
you're right
important.
about,
So many bars get it wrong with lighting, especially now with the rise of LED bulbs. It's really hard to get a nice warm light. And I've noticed a lot of bars putting in these harsh white, like surgical lights, and it just is the wrong vibe for a cozy space.
He's very passionate about that.
Noise.
I agree.
It's got to be warm. It's got to be warm. It makes a huge difference. Like you look at the other thing, you can't put your finger on. It's just a bar that's been there for so long. The just amount of stuff it accumulates, it just makes you feel like it's just been here forever and it's cozy. Like all the stuff at LBQ and Goldings and those sorts of pubs. There's just something about the lived in feeling.
Yeah.
Which we're getting at Mean Doses. But, it was Lone Star before us, so it was lived in since the 90s as their cocktail bar. So we came into a well-loved space
the restaurant
already.
Downstairs.
Yeah, it was the restaurant downstairs, and then upstairs where we are was a cocktail bar and function room. So yeah, that hence all the stiletto marks on the floor. Yeah.
Hey, I'm conscious that we try to keep these episodes to around an hour, and we've covered a lot of ground. But one thing Martin and I were chatting about before we came on air, like Martin said, I want to talk to them about their time in the UK, and in particular, you were in Scotland for I don't know for all of it or for most of it, and I'm just going to kind of curveball this one and ask for thoughts in this particular week on the whole BrewDog saga, given that you would have been there when they were at probably their zenith, I'm guessing, or close to it. Do you observe what's going on with them?
Yeah, it's been. We were there from 2016 until maybe 2017 till 2019, and so they were pretty big then. Like
They were the biggest brewer in the UK.
and they were continuing to open up brew pubs and pubs even around the UK, but around Europe and Australia at that time. And some of the places were like we would often go and visit some of these BrewDog places when we were traveling outside of the UK as well. Sometimes it was one of the places you could get local craft beer. I remember being at the one in Rome, and it was the only place we really got Roman craft beer was at the BrewDog.
It's like right near the Colosseum. There's a BrewDog that had local Italian craft beer.
But there was starting to be a little bit of, I guess, disquiet even then. I remember the staff not necessarily enjoying their work environment even back then, and not being able to understand some of the pricing structures and stuff that were in place with some of their beers that didn't quite make sense. We'd go to like cute little towns around Scotland on our days off, take the train to Falkirk or whatever, and you go to the BrewDog bar there, and there'd be one guy on a Thursday afternoon trying to do all the pizzas, sell all the takeaway beers, and pour all the pints. And that's just kind of how it was done.
And also they were starting to sort of show their ass as sort of a big corporation rather than this punk craft brewery. There was a few of those PR campaigns that didn't quite hit. There was
Pink IPA. That was the one that I was like not drinking BrewDog beer anymore. They've put out this punk IPA with pink labels. I think it was
for girls.
For girls and
we
girls,
made it pink for girls, so girls will drink beer because it's pink.
And if you're a woman, it's cheaper for you than if a man buys it because of the pay equity gap.
You could have done that and not made it pink. That would have been fun.
And it was frustrating. I was like, if you need a media release to go along with your beer, you've missed the mark. I don't know. Women have been drinking your beers and brewing your beers and serving your beers for years. You don't need a pink IPA. So yeah, that was that was the beginning of the end. I think that was the final straw for me, and I think it was
there's plenty of others.
There's plenty of other instances, but it was they had a lot of turnover at their bars as well, which was always quite interesting for we both worked at bars over in Edinburgh that had very small turnover of staff, so it was really interesting. And we're like many bars, you had the same staff there for the whole time we would be there, and so it was quite interesting. From that perspective.
I think it's really interesting the whole from the BrewDog perspective, that I think amongst the beer community that point was recognized that kind of like they've lost touch with who they said they were, but in all of the kind of the publicity that has been around the sale and so on, it's still that still kind of, particularly the UK craft beer, the UK mainstream press sees them as this craft beer kind of company, and they hadn't been that for, as you say, 7 or 8 years. They were the evil empire, really.
They were the highest volume brewer in the UK when we were there. They were pumping out
they're
beer.
not this little upstart. They're not, and yet they're being. It's like, the craft beer revolution has ended because BrewDog have gone. It's like, no, I don't think that's the case. But it's just really interesting to see some of the perspectives in the kind of the wider media.
It was quite interesting as well, seeing some of the comments. A lot of the comments have been from people who bought into BrewDog as well, and like feeling like they owned it and it was a part of them. And we were talking about community before and how that's so important in hospitality and tap rooms particularly. And I found that really interesting because, of course, the founders got multi-million-dollar packages, and all these poor people who kept putting money into like their shareholdings and seeing them like diminished each time that they put in more shares. They really felt it. And I think that's something about the craft beer community as well. Like, we really do care. And when you find a brewery that aligns with your values, or you really enjoy the beer they brew or the people who brew it, like I feel like there's a real like unity, like there's a real connection that we have with our breweries. And I think that's like a craft beer thing, like worldwide. It's not just a New Zealand thing or a Scotland thing, but I thought that was really interesting. That, I mean, I could see the writing on the wall many, many years ago that if this ever happened, of course, as your shares get diminished, of course that's going to happen. But it's just it really mattered to people, which I think says a lot.
Yeah. No, it's the worst thing is that there is just so little money left in that business. Like, whatever it was, £33 million, and so even the crowdfunding side of it was 75 million. So, it's just, where did it all go? It's crazy how poorly mismanaged it must have been.
It is. It's bizarre that sale, and how are they, the number of pubs that they've closed, and how can they even, with the business that small, how can it even sustain the pubs that they've retained? I'd like, you wouldn't have a brewery of that scale running that many pubs. It just doesn't make sense. It's bizarre. There's a lot. I'm sure that there will be a lot of to come out about that. I think the one thing I would say is that BrewDog made a huge impact on craft beer in the UK and globally. I think that some of the things they did at their height and in that growth were have certainly had impacts that have continued to resonate. I remember, drinking those stupid, ridiculously strong, like the Sink the Bismarck and
Tactical Nuclear Penguin, horrible beer.
I remember describing one of them as raw chicken with Vegemite. It's like...
yeah. But the excitement around those things generated, and some of the trail that blazed, but then they just kind of lost themselves, and they lost touch with their community. I think that was the big thing, is that they were somewhere else and their community was still there. And luckily, I think in the UK, other breweries have kind of picked up those people and they've found other places to go, but they grew apart.
Yeah, although those same people have thousands of less pounds to spend wherever they go. Hey, the clock is ticking 59 minutes and 9 seconds, so I'm going to try and wrap this up as close to the hour as possible.
Nice.
You're doing a good job.
One thing
I would have rambled for hours.
David and Denise, that we haven't done is actually tell people when Winter Ales Festival is on. So while they wait for the tickets to come up, what dates can they circle in their diary?
It's the Friday, June the 26th, and Saturday, June the 27th of June. So that's the very last weekend in June. May have been actually the last weekend of June last year as well,
Yep.
which is how we managed to book tickets to Brew Sales Oamaru, thinking it was, oh yeah, that festival's in July, not realizing it was a week after our own beer festival we were putting on. So yes, the last weekend of June, it'll be lovely and wintry.
Yep.
We've got a Friday night session,
Yep,
runs from 5
starts
p.m.
after work.
and then a Saturday day session from 1 p.m. as well. So hopefully you'll be able to get a ticket to one of those 2 dates.
Brewery's looking good, focusing on all the little ones that you don't see around, so can
Okay, who
try
have we
some more
got?
things. Confirmed, we've got Cell Division confirmed, Karamu,
Nine Barnyard Owls.
Nine Barnyard Owls,
Braden always does something
Mean
really
Doses,
delicious.
funnily enough, Beer Engine,
Pickham's
Pickham's,
also
yeah.
always does something awesome and wintry for us as well, which is really cool.
Have a nice cider.
Yeah.
I had their lovely fire cider at Bivana last year.
Oh yes,
That
lovely
that
fire
was
cider.
one of my beers of the festival.
Beautiful cider. Yep.
Brilliant.
So that's just the
Okay,
beginning.
well, guys, yeah. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Secondly, thank you so much for putting on a really cool event. I'm hoping to get there if I'm quick enough off the mark, and I know Martin's already there.
Man,
So,
get
yeah,
your
look,
Well,
ticket.
in Wellington, whether or not I have a ticket for the festival or not I might be kind of waving from outside.
You guys can be media.
We
You get a media pass.
We can.
Oh,
get
media
you in as
passes,
media.
yes.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. Hey, well, look, thank you again. Can't stress how grateful we are for you giving up time on a Monday night to be with us on the Third Pint Theory. So thank you and good night.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.